Hi, this is Colby Mead from the Colby Cast. And you, you're so wrong, dude.
Ross, stop it. Just stop it.
I could not resist right there. I'm just too punchy right now.
He's the one keeping you guys out of bed, not me at this point.
Everything's under control, situation normal, but everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
Everything's gonna be all right, kid.
You found the Rebel Base Card Podcast.
She may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts, kid.
I'm your host, Greg McLaughlin.
Have I made a few bad decisions? Sure.
We talk about cards, collecting Star Wars, and to people in the Star Wars community.
Don't worry, we're gonna meet up with some friends of mine.
Look for special episodes called The Breakfast Pack, talking about your favorite Star Wars shows.
We will never have a better chance than this.
All right, let's get started.
Well, perhaps it is time to begin again.
Welcome back, or if this is your first episode, welcome aboard. My name is Greg McLaughlin, and this is the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Welcome to Homestead Keeping, which are special editions of the podcast we do from time to time when there's a lot of news and notes to kind of pass along. So we're going to take a short break in our coverage of the Topps Disney deal to lay it all out for you. We have Anthony King on the program tonight, who was recently at ICCC in Nashville, as well as one of the many Floridians who had to put up with Hurricane Milton. He joins us on the program to talk about both. We have a brand new set announced from Topps, and that is 2024 Star Wars Galaxy Chrome. It's coming soon, and we're going to break down what's in those packs. And you never know who might just show up in the studio, so stay tuned. We'll be right back with more after this.
This is Mark Mulcaster from Fan for Tracks, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. She may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts.
First off, I just want to say, we've had two very powerful storms in Helene and Milton do a lot of destruction and disruption of everyday lives for a lot of folks, including, I have family and friends down in Florida, and, this week it was tough to kind of see them just sort of prepare as best they can and just know that in some cases, it's just got to go through. And, if you had to evacuate, you did. If you had to stay in place, you did. And, then, of course, the thing happens and you're left picking up the pieces. Maybe you lost power. Maybe you had had some flooding. Maybe you had some damage. Maybe you lost your car or something like that. And it was just really tough just to see people go through that. And I hope wherever you are, whether it's, donating to the Red Cross or your local food pantry or, working with your local church or synagogue or what have you to, put relief supplies together or just help out in your community. That's what I would hope that, the takeaway from this is that, we get through this by just kind of, helping each other out. And this is something, my friend Aaron Harris of the Star Wars Reactions podcast, he says it's a lot at the end of his podcast where it's like, be nice to somebody else. And I just love that message. Colby, Mead, and I kind of pitched in this week and kind of helped them do their podcast because we knew David and Aaron would be, battening down the hatches. And, there's, Aaron's place got kind of damaged and, they're doing a lot of cleanup. And so, it's just one of those things where in some cases, podcasts kind of take a step back. But in which case, for those of us who are, can continue on in this, I just say I want to use this just moment, you and me just kind of say, hey, look, if you have the means, do something, or just donate or something, even just to tell somebody if you have a friend, whether it's on, whether it's in your Facebook group or on your, on Threads or Instagram or whatnot, just a kind word here or there, or just like, hey, how you doing? A check-in, I think means a lot. And I think, when we're kind of seeing on the other side and we're seeing all this cleanup, and just seeing a lot of people pitching in and helping where they can, it just, it kind of warms your heart because it's like, hey, look, this could happen to any of us, right? I mean, there are storms or all kinds of weather events that can kind of come up sometimes with or without warning. And, what are you going to do? So hopefully you can rely on your friends and your family and your community. And maybe if you are in that place, maybe you could see what you can do. I think that even like I said, a kind word or just a check-in, just to let someone know that, hey, what's going on. And it was kind of nice at, like I said, at the end, getting those messages back from folks that I know, because, Conversations, Charles and Pat, They were down in Florida in harm's way. And, of course, Mary and Chaz, which you see on the CWK Facebook group, or Anthony King, who's on the podcast tonight. They were all down there, and many other people, artists and folks, so, I think one of the nice things about the Star Wars community is the fact that we know people all over the place, right? And it's kind of, it's nice on one hand because you can kind of reach out and say, hey, just checking in. On the other hand, it's like someone always seems in harm's way, and you're just like, sometimes you feel a little helpless, but at any rate. But tonight's episode is homestead keeping, and so, when I was talking to Anthony King, I kind of wanted to get his take on, he went to the ICCC convention. I think that's the Imperial Commissary Collectors Convention, if I'm not mistaken. I went down there last year, and we had a blast, and so I know that Anthony was going down there, so I wanted to kind of get his take, and he's going to be putting his shows together. And of course, we had some other news that was kind of dropped in the middle, so we're going to be getting to that. I just kind of wanted to say, like, just you and me up front, just kind of pulling you off to the side and saying, hey, I want to acknowledge it. It is what it is. It happened. Hopefully, like I said, things can kind of be put together. Things can be replaced, right? We always talk about collections and things like that. Aaron's wife put on her Facebook post, I'm like, things can be replaced. People can't. And so, it's one of those things where, we all have a lot of stuff. We try to take care of our stuff as best we can, but at the end of the day, it's the people that are most important. And that's what I care about. So anyway, let's get back into the program. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with Anthony King and more on Milton.
We're in attack position now, sir.
Hold here.
We're not going to attack.
I have my orders from the Emperor himself. He has something special planned for you. We only need to keep him from escaping.
First off, I am kind of curious how things went, and we'll slide into a conversation about ICCC, but I am kind of curious about what's on a lot of folks' minds, and porches, patios inside their houses. But Hurricane Milton comes right after, Hurricane Helene, and so you're just literally getting off the plane from one and going into the other. So what's kind of going? Can you lead me up to the events before everything went down?
Yeah, so fortunately, we didn't have any issues with Helene at all. It was very minimal that anything that hit the Orlando area. So it was, I think we're very much saved by a lot of that we didn't have to worry about cleaning up the one to then prepare for the next one as a thing. So, my heart goes out to all those people in the Tampa region, especially, that still had flooding going on before, golly gee, another one comes. So yeah, we survived Helene with the minimal wind and rain that we got from that. And then went up to Nashville for a few days, mostly in support of ICCC, but it's also Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations' birthday. So we spent some time in the downtown Nashville area in the evenings to just kind of celebrate her and do a lot of fun stuff.
A nice, quiet place downtown Nashville is, right? Just very subtle, very, very low key, right?
Well, I tell you what, downtown Nashville is something, but there's downtown Nashville after Vanderbilt beats Alabama.
That's right. They carry parts of the stadium away.
They carried, yes, the goalpost all the way from the stadium through Broadway down to the river there, and through the goalpost into the river. So we did not see that, but we can verify that the lingering shocks and the after effects of such action were percolating throughout the city. So we avoided Broadway like the plague. So we stayed away from that general area, but we explored a lot of other neighborhoods of the Nashville area. And of course we did some of the touristy things. We had hot chicken and had some nice barbecue, all good stuff across the board. This was my second time being in the Nashville area. So my wife's first time, she wanted to hit up a lot of those spots. So that was quite nice. And then, like I said before, we off air, I think, we were in the airport heading back to Orlando. And of course, there's no direct flights from Nashville to Orlando for whatever reason. So we were landing in Atlanta, having to run from one side of the airport to the absolute other side of the airport, as one has to do when your flight is literally boarding as soon as you land in Atlanta. It's probably the fastest I've ever run outside of like a athletic event, just to try and make the flight if possible. And then fortunately we got on the flight. We landed in Orlando at 1 a.m. and then get in bed around 2 and start work at 7:30 the next morning. So with that, basically in the airport, I was like, oh my gosh, we have, looks like we have another large hurricane coming our way, I said to the missus. So as soon as we got there back home and started up, got through the email and all that, started to kind of piece together what this storm would actually entail. Wow, it jumped up to a Category 5. Well, we should probably take this a bit more seriously than Helene and probably some of the other tropical storms we had come through. So went out and got some sandbags, learned about every trick in the trade possible to, freezing bags of ice or, plastic Ziploc bags filled up with water, throw it in the freezer, just trying to get some more ice in case the power goes out, charging everything, fill up the bathtub with water in case you need to use that for a variety of reasons. Bring in all the outdoor material, the things, so like the outside grill and the patio furniture we got, bring it into the garage, secure all the sandbags, and basically ride the storm out. And I know a lot of people were in evacuation zones, had to get out. I know we stayed off the roads as best we could. We didn't go to Disney or Universal. We let those close down early, but we also let the people that needed those rooms to get them, and the other hotel rooms in the area. Fortunately, a lot of people were evacuating to the Orlando area from those floodplain zones, and we're not in the flood zone where we currently live. So that was other good sign and indicator. We're also dwarfed by 2 larger homes beside us on either side. So with the wind gusts, we were pretty confident that they would take a majority of the brunt of the wind and rain. So we didn't have any issues, fortunately, across the board. I mean, I will say we didn't lose power. We didn't lose water at all. No water in the house, no flooding. We were very fortunate with all that. But I know others weren't so fortunate, and I hope that people are able to quickly clean out and assess damage as much as possible and try to get back to a state of normalcy and regularity as soon as possible for them. But that was my Milton story.
Oh my goodness. Did you hear about much that happened, damage in the Orlando area or to the Disney parks? I know that you have a keen eye and ear for things that's happening out at the Land of the Mouse. Did you find anything out there?
Yes, yeah. So the Mouse did survive. Spoiler alert to everybody. They were open again on Friday. The storm hit on a Wednesday evening going into Thursday, and they closed down on that Thursday and then reopened promptly Friday morning again. So it sounds like everything was situation normal. Maybe a couple trees had bent a little, and it probably quickly picked up any debris that was in the road. I maybe saw a little bit of flooding on some of those Disney roads getting in and out, but they took care of that pretty fast. So the Mouse will endure through anything and everything. Let that be the warning. When the nuclear holocaust happens, somehow the Mouse will still remain.
For anybody that's left, then the park will open, maybe slightly discounted on their ticket prices.
Maybe. Maybe they won't have all the rides operating because they want people to operate them. But you might be able to get in. I remember at Mount Vernon, we had... I used to work at George Washington's home, Mount Vernon, by the way.
Oh, wow.
And every year they would close down the home. So the thing you were going there for like 2 weeks for a massive cleaning and potential renovation, whatever they needed to do. So this would be in January, shortly after the new year, the lowest peak time of the season because no one's coming to Northern Virginia in middle of January, especially to a historic house 10 miles outside of the capital. But they would still charge like $10 ticket to walk the grounds if you wanted. So I always laugh like, hey, just come see the exterior. It's good enough. We'll take you if you want to spend the money. But I can only imagine how empty the house was on those days.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I was going to say, was this amongst your... How long have you been in Florida now?
We actually just hit a year. I think either today or yesterday. So we are Floridians now, I guess.
What do you think, like, having gone through this, do you think there are things you're like, you know what, maybe we should invest in X, Y, or Z, or you're like, hey, next time, maybe we should get one of those things because it's not like it's going to be the last storm.
Yeah, I mean, we had done a lot of prep in like May for hurricane season. So we already had a pantry full of necessities and things that you should have in any case of any type of emergency, whether it be a hurricane or, God forbid, anything else, right? We have perishable food items, perishable snacks, ready-made, easy-make things in case power goes out or water goes out. We are fully stocked for months, I think, on that front. We have our water already there, bottled water. So anything like that, I think we're set to go on that. Now we have sandbags for the future too, which I don't think we really needed, just because of where our house is located and we are on a hill basically, so the water will drain down away from us pretty easily. But we do have those, which I think are could be a big thing moving forward for people. The only thing we have, so we built this home and we built a generator hookup, but we don't have the generator yet. So that's going to be probably a purchase next year just to have in case. So we've already thought of that coming into this. And we were told that the home is built with the same kind of building materials that you would build a home in like Puerto Rico, for example, that can withstand like a category 5-4 storm easily. So we are very much happy to confirm that seems to be the case. The windows, I know a lot of people like board or shutter windows for a variety of reasons. Our windows are supposed to withstand a category 5 storm. So I didn't feel a need to do that for this one. So I think the generator is going to be our biggest need and purchase moving forward, but that's something we were already planning to do.
Yeah, I really like, a friend of mine and I were kind of talking this morning about a lot of those little solar-powered or like accessories.
Anything solar-powered accessories. Yeah, we have a running list, too, of that type of mini stuff. Anything solar-powered, extra, phone charging batteries and stuff like that are solar power. Solar-powered fans. Again, Florida, hot. You lose electricity, you lose AC. And if you're in a home and you're stuck in a home too, you're gonna want that solar-powered fan looking right in your face as much as you possibly can. Yeah, those type of things are important, very important.
Yeah, the nice thing is though, it's like, okay, if you are stuck at home, and let's say let's say you're stuck at home and you don't have that power, it's like you could probably just fire up a candle or an LED light. I think that's something else that's kind of nice, that the LED lights, they don't require a lot of juice, and there's a lot of different things that have them. But you could probably turn right around to that, some of those shelves that are in back of you and go, what would be a good time to do? Dust or organize, or let's crack a book. Let's just say, all right, let's say the power goes out. What would be your go-to? Like, all right, I guess I'm just going to read by candlelight, historical atlas of World War II. All right, light reading, just a couple of,
Boy, if you knew, if you only knew. Most of my spare time is devoted to reading maps of the Second World War. So, fun things about me. If we had lost power, I've got the Sabak set too, so we could. The missus and I would be playing many hands of Sabak, and we have Disney Villainous, and I actually bought in the 80s. Apparently, there was an ET card game that I just came across on TikTok once, and was like, I gotta see how much these are on eBay. And turns out you can buy one still in the packaging for like $5. So that was a nice eBay splurge the other day. So we were full set with physical games to have on hand in the event of a loss of power. And there was a part of me that was looking forward to potentially having to play some of those games. Like sometimes you need an excuse to get off the electronic devices, and this would have certainly proven the need to do so. Now, thankfully, that didn't happen, because that would have meant there were other problems going on in the neighborhood and area. So, happy it didn't happen, but always prepared for the worst if need be.
I think Colby and I were talking, because Colby and I did. We filled in for David and Aaron on reactions this week, and I was telling him that when we were in the Pacific, and I was living with my sister, it's like we had something we called Brownout Battleship, where you had a Battleship board game, and as soon as the power went out, and of course, you might be out for 2 or 3 days at least. You play by candlelight, and it's a pretty easy game, and it's not like, you could go the Monopoly route, but I'm like, you are stuck in the house with that person, so you probably want a game that's like that. It calms back down pretty easily after someone
It's not
wins.
gonna boil heads too much, yeah.
Right. You're not going to be like, hey, arguing over who's charging rent, and you're like, dude, you're raising my rent. Like, and so like, no, you got to remember you're inside the house. So it's like if you're going to have these group activities, make it something where it's fun, and that way by day 2 you're not throwing somebody out of a house into the into the wilderness. But at any rate.
Hey, folks, this is Ro from the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast, where it's always sunny on Scarif, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card podcast. Great pull, kid.
Well, I am curious. So you got back. You probably really haven't had that much time to kind of process ICCC, but I am kind of curious your thoughts overall, and excited to. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but this is your first press credentials. I'm sure you were going up with a lot to bear there. So let's dive right in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my initial thoughts. So, I had quite the journey, I'll say. I was on Hyperspace Heroes was a podcast that was there at ICCC, and got to meet them in person, but also they did their recap episode last night, which fortunately, because I had power, I was able to join and give my thoughts there. So at the end, I will say, I did Thursday, Friday, Saturday, left Sunday. It still went on Sunday, but I didn't feel a need to go that day. At the end of Sunday and at the airport, I was like, man, this is a awesome convention. Like, this is everything that a Star Wars fan would want and need from a multifaceted, multi-tiered convention that is intimate, right? I want to say that word because I don't want to say small, because I feel like that undermines what actually ICCC does and is, right? Because that would have been if you asked me on Thursday, that VIP day, which they have a VIP day if you pay extra money, you get to go in there basically a half day before the public does for the rest of the weekend, and you get kind of first access at all the autographs and photo ops, and there's special panels that day for folks. So definitely a big perk if you're a person that wants to do all that kind of stuff. As a member of the press, I was able to get in on that Thursday and just kind of take some B-roll footage and see what the lay of the land is. But going from a Star Wars celebration and a D23 as my only other real nerd geek convention experiences, which are very big produced kind of big productions, and then going to a convention that's in a wing of the Sheridan Music City in Nashville, right outside the airport. It was kind of a bit of a shock at first. I was like, whoa, this is small. I was like, man, whoa. My brain couldn't comprehend what I like the big leap that I had taken from D23 is filling up this entire Anaheim Convention Center, and then less than 2 months later, I am at this ICCC. So my first initial experience was shock, and like, wow, this is small. How are we going to fill up time and all this stuff for the next couple of days? But it did. And at the end of it, I'm like, man, I don't want to leave. This is awesome. They have absolutely everything that would satisfy me as a fan, and I'm sure as other fans are there, you're just seeing people. You're able to walk right up to folks that were in Star Wars in some way, shape, or form, whether they're behind the scenes, they're a small, background role character, or they're Warwick Davis or Billy D. Williams, right? Like, that's the type of talent pool that they have at this convention, which is awesome. And the biggest day was Saturday in terms of crowd capacity. And I never felt like I couldn't get into anything that I wanted to. I didn't have to queue to then get into something else. Like, no time is absolutely wasted at all at ICCC. In fact, you're like, all right, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. You're almost like overwhelmed with everything that you can do, that instead of having the opposite at like a Star Wars celebration where you're like, wow, I can only do this because of the time. Whereas at ICCC, or perhaps another small level size convention, maybe a Rebel ScumCon is probably the most comparable in terms of size and scope, that you're almost like, I have too much. I can do everything here. Is there anything that I want to sacrifice to do something else? Which is an entirely different approach to that. But in terms of bang for your buck, you're getting everything absolutely out of it possible. You're milking out every opportunity that is available to people. And there's so much to do at ICCC that I think it's worthwhile from any fan perspective, whether you're a casual Star Wars fan, or maybe we joked about this on the ICCC show, because again, this is a working hotel, and we're in one wing, and you're seeing all these people in cosplay walking in and around about, and the folks that are just getting a night stay at the hotel, then going to hop on the shuttle to then go to the airport the next morning. They're probably like, what did I just stumble into here? And maybe those folks were enticed and interested, and then walked over and bought a one-day pass or something like that, and then walked around the show floor and saw all the cool stuff, and maybe they've been converted to the ways of the nerd convention. But overall, I think this is a fantastic show. It's very well done. The cast that put it together are spectacular, and I will say my favorite part of the convention overall was the panels. I think they rivaled in terms of the content and the curation of those panels anything else that exists out there in the world, right? And I'm happy to dive in further into that thought there. But the Saturday of programming that they had, the lineup that they had of panels all day long, I just stayed in that room because I was like, I'm not missing this next one. I'm not missing the one after this. I barely have to find time to eat here. I'm missing 5 minutes of this other one because I have to run out to a food truck and then quickly run back in and scarf down my meal because I don't want to miss the cool stuff that they're talking about up on this stage here, which it's fantastic, right? So ICCC's got my vote of confidence, and got my recommendation for any fans that are whether you're on the fence to go in the future, or if you've never heard of it before, then I think if you're a Star Wars fan and you're into collecting and just kind of meeting some characters that make up this grand galaxy far, far away, that you would never have the opportunity to do so at a celebration or any other large convention, this is the place to be.
Well, and especially with, the fan expos taking over Wizard World and, Reed Pop, and how big a lot of these shows have gotten. Michael Havens, who I had a chance to meet when we went to ICCC last year. At that time, they went to the Wilson County Expo Center, and that was like a huge, 275-acre complex, and they had separate buildings. There was a whole building just for the podcast stage, and you're walking, and they're bringing in Ian McDiarmid, or they're bringing in some of the cast from Daredevil, and you're just like, this is nuts. And then they had a separate place for some of the marquee celebrities to do, their autographs and pictures and whatnot. And then you had other people that were
pretty much
out
the
there.
whole Rebels crew last year, right? Too.
Yeah, they had, I think,
everyone but Freddie, I think, right?
Freddie and his wife, who's
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Thank you. I think they were a last minute cancel, but yeah, we got to go to the Rebels panel, and that's when they had the area, and you were talking about those panels. I'm like, there were chairs for miles, and the stage and everything there. I think and that was something, because he had outgrown the hotels, and then they moved out there, and then I know that there was some issue. I think I don't think maybe the county was quite getting like what what's going on out there. I'm like, no, these are people that are coming to your town, because it was a little ways outside of Nashville. I'm like, you can give Nashville all that revenue, and they'll sit there and go, thanks. What else you got? But I'm like, we got an Airbnb, because I know that the Mulders and Ross and Monica, we all got like a small house nearby, and it was fantastic. But the space that they were able to allocate for like the 501st and the droid builders, and they had all these props and stuff going in. It was probably going to be tighter for something like a hotel, but yeah, I would say what you're kind of missing with this is a lot of the extra overhead. I mean, sure, the tickets are going to cost a little, but it's not going to be a ton. And I do think that they can draw talent, they can draw artists, they can draw, vendors. And, especially like, going through some of the bins of like some of the figure stuff, like, yes, it's a toy convention, but there was certainly all manner of stuff. There's they had a tattoo section put up that, there were some authors there. I got to talk to a couple of Topps artists while I was there, and there's just so much going on. But Havens, who was kind of like bouncing around, I got to catch him at one point, and he was helping. He was just engaging with folks who are going. Like, he was excited people were there, and all his volunteers, all that staff. I mean, they just put together a great show. It was unfortunate that like this year, it's like not only do we have the anniversary, but we also had volleyball. But I'm hoping that they put it in a non-anniversary weekend. But it was nice. Like even my wife and daughter got to come down and spend a little time last year because we had so much extra space. But yeah, when you're having it down there in Nashville, it doesn't seem like that far. As opposed to like we talked about Rebel Scum, and yeah, I kept seeing all the stuff pop up in the Instagram and going, okay, here's another quasi-independent show, kind of like Heroes Con in Charlotte, where it's just gotten bigger, but it's got that the reputation and enough there that you go, okay, great, especially in another year where we're not going to have a U.S. based celebration, and of course you could go to San Diego, you could go to New York Comic Con and kind of deal with that, or you could find, cherry pick a couple of these really, really nice but growing shows and go, I'm done.
Yeah, I think it's certainly there. And frankly, like I was saying, the content is going to rival, if not exceed, what they have there for like those New York Comic Con and all that, right? Because I know like for Star Wars specifically, they have like maybe like a publishing panel at most for Star Wars, and maybe same at San Diego Comic-Con, especially if there's not like a thing to promote. Like I know they'll have a Lucasfilm booth, but you're not just getting only Star Wars stuff there, which at ICCC 90 to 95% of the stuff is Star Wars.
Right, and that's a great point. Just about having that, like I think one of the reasons why I'm not that interested in going to San Diego, other than the fact that it's incredibly expensive, is the fact that like if you want to have that large comic con experience but have multi-genre, we have C2E2, or like I was kind of telling you, like I wouldn't mind going to Emerald City Comic Con at least once, because Seattle would be kind of dope, and you kind of go to some of those larger shows, Baltimore Comic Con and all that, Rhode Island, was it Providence, Rhode Island Comic Con, but yeah, like having like Rebel Scum and ICCC, you're going, yeah, this is just stuff where. And it's also in cool places like Nashville and Charlotte.
Nashville is, yeah. And, it's like for where it's at right now, if they keep it at the Sheridan or perhaps similar location, it's only 15 minutes by Uber to downtown Nashville, which very accessible. The show ends at 6. If you really want to explore downtown Nashville, which is a vibrant nightlife scene, it is available to you at, very affordable cost.
What were some of the other panels?
So, fortunately, ICCC has an app too, so I'm able to pull it up here. So especially that Saturday, which I think is probably the top tier level of panels that they had. So they had an ILM panel featuring Lauren Vogt and John Goodson. John Goodson was specifically featured in Light and Magic, the new documentary that came out a few years ago on Disney Plus. He went from the creature shop the model shop to then learned computer graphics for the prequels, and then now it's back on doing model work for the Mandoverse shows, and he did specifically the Razor Crest, which was awesome to hear him kind of talk about the creation of that, but also the destruction of the Razor Crest.
Said Razor
because
Crest.
It was apparently it was a shock to the crew that they were doing such a thing. Like they showed up one day and they're like, we're blowing it up today. He also dropped a few snippets about Skeleton Crew as well during that panel, which was awesome. I mean, like there was another panel that day featuring Amy Allen and Michonne Bourrier. I hope I pronounced that right. I don't know if I did or not, but Amy Allen played Ayla Secura in the prequels, and Michonne played Aura Singh. Okay, I got it. And there's where I was like, once I got to this panel, this is when I kind of like realized the importance of ICCC and why an ICCC of this level should exist, is because you are never at Star Wars Celebration going to get a panel with these two folks on stage, right? To hear their experiences, to hear their story about how they got involved with Star Wars, which was fascinating, by the way. They both have incredible stories for how they got involved with this and still continue to stay involved with it afterwards. It's not happening, right? There's way too much, I don't want to say an agenda, but they have other things to talk about at Star Wars Celebration or a D23 that they're not necessarily looking back to actors and actresses that had played characters 20 years before that have become fan favorites, perhaps over this time. And I was like, man, this is this is the benefit of this type of convention is you get these stories told, you get to ask questions. That's another thing too, that I want to highlight as a win for ICCC is that you're pretty much, if you want, you can ask any question to these folks. If they have a panel, just raise your hand. I'm sure there's enough time allotted that they'll come to you if you really want to ask a question directly to the people. So yeah, Billy D. Williams had a conversation, which was fascinating. Again, it's also very much a toy convention, so there's a lot of the folks from Kenner back in the day. They'll do panels with those people. Warwick Davis had a conversation panel up on stage. I mean, I'm a big Willow fan myself, and everything that he's done in the nerd space has just been fantastic. So to be able to hear it directly from his mouth. Here's the other panel that I really wanted to mention, that the fact that you got all these three people up on stage at one time to chat about the original Star Wars film, fantastic, right? So they got Garrick Hagen, who played Biggs Darklighter, Angus McInnes, who played Gold Leader, and Dennis Lawson, Wedge Antilles, all together on stage at the same time. I mean, I know Dennis Lawson has been known to avoid these conventions like the plague, so it's only recently that he's come back into the fold with this type of stuff. But the fact that you got all of these three guys up on stage, I mean, for a lot of the people in the seating area, like that's their childhood right there. These are their action figures up on stage at one time. Like, it's so crazy that they're able to pull something off like this, and to get them in a space where they're putting them on an appropriate panel together, right? You're not putting Amy Allen and Dennis Lawson together on a panel just because they were in Star Wars. It's vastly different Star Wars. These guys have similar experiences and stories that they can talk about almost 50 years ago, how they came together into this thing, how they got involved with it, what are some of the fun memories they have on set. And yeah, just that's the level of programming you're getting here, which again, you're not going to get these types of panels at a celebration. And if, at most, these guys are going to be there at the show floor, behind the autograph stage, or getting photographs and all that stuff, and you're going to wait in long lines for these guys. And there were many times throughout the 2.5 days that I was at ICCC where I'd walk right past Dennis Lawson on the show floor with no one in front of him. So if I wanted to, I could have talked this man's ear off all day long, but I let him be.
You did the right thing.
That is the ICCC experience in a nutshell. There, you can walk right past Dennis Lawson. You can turn the corner, and there's Timothy Zahn to talk about any type of book. There's Mark Thompson right beside him, who does Star Wars audio books. Oh, you turn your head again. There's Chris Bartlett, who does a lot of the droid work in the Mandoverse. The shows, and Ahsoka and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And you turn your corner again, there's Crix Nadine right there. So, like, a wild array of folks. But if you're a fan of this stuff, and these are the people that you're able to get close and intimate with and ask them really personal questions about their experiences with this work, you're able to do that. And without spending the time that you would at a celebration. You're standing in line for hours waiting for an autograph. You're missing out on everything else. You don't have to miss anything here, which is awesome.
That's so cool. Something else, because I know that we should be looking forward to your episode on ICCC, but I'm kind of curious. You got some press credentials. Were you able to get some interviews, and were you able to kind of like use that to kind of get some good locations, or at least like, hey, I got here, and as opposed to the folks with the regular passes?
So I got into just about everything, aside from they were really strict about the VIP only panel with Warwick Davis. So I was in basically every other panel aside from that. I recorded a lot of them, so be on the lookout for the specific content from the panels in my episodes coming up. So I was able to also meet a lot of folks at ICCC, people that I had experienced or have come across in the social media sector, as well as in the podcast sector as well. There's also, we kind of, I think, talked about this in just passing, but there was also a whole podcast stage as well. So because I'm kind of pretty good friends now with the Hyperspace Heroes guys, who are also friends very well with the ECTV guys, who are kind of the main guys on the podcast stage, doing a lot of the marquee interviews. Basically, once those people were done with their panel on the main stage, they would then walk them over to the podcast stage, where they would be interviewed again for about maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes there, depending on the person. And you could I felt like it was the best kept secret at ICCC. 'Cause not only are the guests warmed up, but they're going to get asked different questions here that they aren't necessarily prepped for in the panel, or the audience isn't going to really tee up for them. So to hear like a Mark Thompson do the Marcion Rowe voice without being asked or prompted to, he's just doing it right there, and I'm 5 feet away from him. Like that's the type of, or a closed room. I got into a closed door podcast recording with Billy D. Williams, and he gave me a head nod. That's like as soon as he walked in, he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Hello, Mr. Williams." Like, I don't know how to respond to this, but this is awesome. So that level of access too was a fantastic thing that I think probably people missed out on because they thought that the podcast stage was off limits to people, but it wasn't. Aside from the Billy D and Warwick Davis conversations, which I was able to get into. I was also able to be on the podcast stage itself too. So Brown Leader from the Hyperspace Heroes crew invited me to participate in a recording that they were doing with Chris Bartlett, who I mentioned earlier, who is kind of the droid guy extraordinaire for the Mandoverse stuff. His credits are vast and numerous, but he's also mostly C-3PO. If Anthony Daniels is not in the suit, he is kind of the 3PO now. And if for public appearances, he's probably the guy in 3PO. If you see him at like the Oscars or something like that, or like say for example, Carrie Fisher gets a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, like the 3PO guy is going to be him. So got to interview him, but also Chris Parsons, who is a probably not so well known and behind the scenes guy for the original trilogy, who played several droids, and that he was kind of the body double for Anthony Daniels and for 3PO, and he's most notably known as the 3PO that's in the suit when the Ewoks are lifting him up and he's in the chair in Return of the Jedi. But he's also 4-LOM and a stormtroopers and all that throughout this time there. So the fact that we were able to chat with them for about 15 to 20 minutes about their time in Star Wars, and they were wonderful bantering between the two of them. How like being 3PO now versus 3PO then is so vastly different, and but the through link together between the two of them, Anthony Daniels, right? They spoke so very highly of him, and how he's been very complimentary of their work over time, and he kind of has a seal of approval for them. So that was a truly cool experience to be able to do that, and just having press access. It was nice to just be like, press here, I'm here, let me in.
Well, and I know that also, with those independent shows, they're a little more favorable to, I think, to, folks like us, who don't have the 2 million followers on, or like they're not the huge influencers. And so I think it's also nice because then I think with those kind of shows, like, you're going there to do some work. You're going to, it's like, we're not just sitting there just kind of going, look at me in front of this.
Oh, yeah.
You're just like, hey, I got some things to do. And I think also the celebrities are there kind of feel that this is not necessarily such, this is not San Diego, so they can kind of like bring it down a notch and not feel like they're going to get, and I think everybody's just a little more comfortable. So
I agree.
Hate giving away the secret because it's a great con, but I do think that it's worth supporting. And like I said, Rebel Scum Con, you're kind of looking at it going, that looks very interesting.
It does.
At least try to get down there, at least maybe for a day or so, even if, press credentials aside, just to go and see some of the folks there. Because I know a lot of the folks that are in California get out to there. They may not come on the East Coast. Yeah, it's a little easier for them. All right, well, just kind of bring things down to a close, and I appreciate you, giving us a little feedback and a little bit of taste of what's to come on some of your content coming up in your podcast. But to let folks know where they can find you and all this, what do they got to do?
So all they have to do is go to any podcast platform, perhaps an Apple or Spotify, and just search for Force Ghost Conversations. That's where you'll find my podcast. It's your cozy home for deep dive discussions into all things Star Wars and Lucasfilm adjacent things, which we'll talk about from time to time. And if you want to see some of the stuff, like pictures that we posted from ICCC, I did some video footage of the show floor and just kind of walkthroughs and stuff like that. Posted some audio clips from the panel specifically onto the social media sites. So we're available on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Just search for Force Ghost Conversations. Again, we'll be there in some capacity, and we'd love to continue the conversation with you. So our first episode, let's just say, because there's so much to get to on ICCC, from like the panels that we were into and we recorded, as well as just like recording interviews with people. I did a kind of a daily recap pre and post each day that I was there. That will be out on Sunday, October 13th. So depending on when you're listening to this, it may or may not be available in your feeds yet. So just if you're interested in what we talked about today in a bit more detail, and perhaps boots on the ground me speaking about things that happened during the day, then go check out that episode.
Oh, I appreciate it. And thank you very much for coming on the pod and letting us know. It was, like I said, it's a shame not to get there. I hope to go back. It's like I said, the experience that we had in 2023 was amazing, and it just sounds like it's continuing to grow, but still remain grounded in where it is and what it wants to be, and I'm all for that. So we're going to let you get back to it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much.
Hi, this is Frank Mulder, or Mr. Daft Prawn on Twitter and Instagram, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
All right, let's go ahead and give you a breakdown of what's in this 2024 Topps Star Wars Chrome. We'll start with the box themselves, the hobby boxes. You are looking at 18 packs per box and 4 cards per pack. If you are the type that love to get cases, there are 12 boxes per case. All right, kind of let's take a look at what's inside. Now, this is a 100 card base set, and pretty much looks similar to the Chrome releases of the past, although it does look like we have a lot more variants in this. And if I just wanted to go down through these, on the base card parallels, we are going to have a refractor parallel. It's going to be 1 per pack. You know how I feel about refractors at this point, but there you go. We have a mini diamond refractor. That's 1 every 6th. Then you have aqua refractors that are numbered to 199. Aqua sonar refractors numbered to 199. Aqua lava refractors to 175. Blues to 150. Wave refractor parallels to 99. Prism refractor parallels to 75. Mojo refractor parallels to 50. Orange to 25. X factors to 10. Reds to 5, and of course the Superfractor Parallel 1 of 1s. We have some insert sets to talk about. We have the Art of Naboo, and this is original art referencing different beautiful locations from artist's balance sheet, celebrating the planet Naboo with the following parallel structures. We have some parallels here as well. We have the Aquas to 199, Aqua Lavas to 175, Blue Refractors to 150, Waves to 99, Prisms to 75, Mojos, again, to 50, Oranges to 25, X-Fractors to 10, Reds to 5, and of course the 1 of 1 Superfractor. We have the Art of the Sith, and this featuring original art from Jason Thomas, focusing on 8 Siths in the Star Wars universe. That might be interesting to see there. We also have a 25th anniversary Art of Darth Maul, and this insert will be highlighting 25 years of the anniversary of Darth Maul through unique original art from previous Galaxy series along with new art. So it's kind of in the past where we see these Galaxy sets have a combination of older art and new. We also have Power of the Dark Side. This will be original art from Tracy Easterday, telling the story of the power of the dark side and how Anakin falls to it. We have Galactic Empire art. This would be original art from artist Yuzuri Art. That would be focusing on the characters from the Galactic Empire. We have the Armor Shadow Box. This insert will be Shadow Box card featuring helmets from the most well-known characters with iconic helmets. That's going to be 1 per case. It's going to be a tough one indeed. Action figure variant comic cover. This will feature the art of John Tyler Christopher. These are going to be very rare, also 1 to 5 per case. We have One with the Force. This will be a 5-card insert that's only a 1 of 1 superfractor of characters from the light side and dark side of the Force. We got a lot of 1 of 1 superfractors in this. Let's talk about the Galaxy autographs. And let's see. These autos will fall 1 per case and will feature top Star Wars talent, so a little bit rarer on the autographs. We have autograph parallels, wave refractors to 99, mojos to 50, orange to 25, red to 5, and superfractor parallels 1 of 1. Dual autographs. These would be both sticker autographs, a little bit of a disappointment, but not surprising. We have red refractors to 5 and superfractors 1 of 1. We also have triple autographs. Let's see, refractors to 5 and superfractors 1 of 1. And then the quad autograph. That'd be an interesting pull. I can't wait to see who gets one of these. Once again, sticker autographs. These are refractors to 5 and superfractors 1 of 1. Now, of course, we have sketch cards, and they do mention that we're going to have a combination of our regular sketch cards, but they're also going to be bringing in some Lucasfilm animators for the first time to do some special sketches. And here's a list. We have Justin Bruce Lee, Chris Madden, Scott Zenteno, Ben Bryant, Don Carlos, and Taylor Chojek. So these are going to be Lucasfilm animators who are contributing sketch cards to the 2024 Star Wars Galaxy Chrome. All right, that's going to be kind of the breakdown of what's inside these. Once again, looking at a 10/25/24 release date. And all the major sites are seeming to be fairly consistent on that. And I'll be excited to see some of the sketch cards that will be posted on Instagram once the embargo's up, and that's usually on release day. And of course, on the day before, so let's say on 10/24, you might be seeing some hints or previews by some of the sketch artists who have been working on Galaxy. So this is our second set of the year, major set of the year. And this is going to be a popular one, so probably already seen any and all pre-orders sold out. It's going to be a tough get. This, once again, will make, I think, the Chrome Star Wars maybe a little easier to get because a lot of your big spenders and folks who have kind of gotten their fill of Chrome will be moving on. So maybe we'll see some interesting prices in Chrome. Maybe they'll drop a little bit online. We'll just have to see. All right, we'll take a break and be right back after this.
This is Daz Davis, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
So not only have we had part 1 of the Topps Disney deal go into the podcast feed, we also had part 1 of Rebuilding the Galaxy, or Rebuilding the Breakfast, as it were, where Greg Cass from Ion Cannon and I kind of broke down those first 2 chapters of the Lego Star Wars Rebuilding the Galaxy show that had premiered on Disney Plus last month. We are still planning on releasing the second part of that, but Greg was able to stop by and not only talk about where to find maybe Star Wars Chrome near you, but also talk a little bit about Star Wars Unlimited. Of course, we have that Twilight of the Republic release that is coming up in November. So without further ado, let's welcome Greg Cass back in the studio. One of the most amazing things that I have seen in this Star Wars Chrome release was the fact that a couple more stores were, selling Topps Chrome. Now, we've talked about GameStop before in our earlier episodes, but of late, the Costco special box of Topps Star Wars Chrome with its wide vision card kind of sold me, because I don't know. Hello, you live in a suburb. You can't be that far away from a Costco.
Absolutely not. I think 3 within driving distance.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, and that to me is a throwback. Like, I think of those days of, Phantom Menace or the other prequels as they came out, and you would see suddenly you'd like have no idea, and you'd see a different box, a different kind of this one's 8 packs, or this one comes with a collectible coin or a keychain or some kind of tchotchke, and like. It was always fun to get surprised by one of those. So finding out that Costco has those is really great. I've scoped them out at Target. My problem is I know if I buy one, I'm going to be back there emptying my wallet for 10 more. So I've stayed strong so far. But, Costco Picard squadron member / bad influence Frank Mulder was flashing his beautiful Marvas that he was collecting up, and I believe he had an auto. Maybe I'm making that up. But I was like, oh man, I'd love seeing those Andor characters on those cards. That's mighty tempting.
One of the pickups was the Haja Estri numbered one, and first I thought it was an auto, and I don't know why I was like, it was an auction that was ending soon, and I kind of like pulled the trigger, and then I was like, okay, so it's only a numbered to 99, but I do like some of the characters on it. Of course, you've got some of those, debut characters. But what I would say is that if you're looking for the ultimate cheap way in, Star Wars Card Trader does have the full set plus autos. I pulled a Mark Hamill auto in Star Wars Card Trader, and if only this was physical. But it's a nice way to kind of see, and even if you're in the Marvel app, they have Topps Chrome Marvel release, and that was kind of nice. And of course, that was sort of like, as we were talking in this episode about the Marvel Disney deal. That kind of was like, okay, kind of a precursor to what's going down. The other thing that I wanted to kind of mention, since I still had you on this call, and if you're wondering why also Greg was here, we just finished our episode on Rebuilding the Galaxy episodes, or parts 1 and 2, but it was the fact that we've seen more and more preview releases of Twilight of the Republic for Star Wars Unlimited. I don't know what Instagram channels you're following that may be talking about that, maybe showing that, but I think you've got to be excited about maybe some of the cards that you have had a chance to see.
Oh, absolutely. And Greg, you're hiding the shameful text message exchange we had the other day, which was pre-orders went live. And I will shout out the Meadalorian on Instagram, who is a big UK fan and has a wild following. If that sounds familiar, but people don't remember, he's the one who last year, if he got to a certain number, his wife was going to buy him the Lego Millennium Falcon. So
yeah, he got that. I think he got that Lego set because he does a great job of picking up followers. But yeah, it was nice because the site that I had, Flipside, which is where I think it's a site I'd found when you were asking for pre-orders on Shadows of the Galaxy, also had them up, and I would say that actually had some really good prices because what's up for pre-order are the booster box, the starter set, as well as the preview set. That's what I went ahead and pre-ordered right away because it was, I think, under 40.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that particular product. I had very good luck with Flipside Gaming. So what Greg's referring to is I was out of town when the Shadows of the Galaxy pre-orders went up and just missed it entirely, and was like trying 3 weeks later, scrambling with every game store I knew to try to find somewhere. And Greg found Flipside, and I had great luck. You don't have to get that high to get their free shipping. I forget the exact number. But I went ahead and got my booster, my starters, and then the pre-release is usually what I have talked about before, how you go to the store on a preview night. It's a little box with 6 packs, and you build your own sealed deck, kind of the experience I've related. And it can be hard because a lot of game stores, it's like one Friday night. And if you're busy,
right.
I think my wife was out of town for Shadows of the Galaxy, so I cajoled my way in and just like I was basically threw myself at the mercy of the disaffected teenager running the game night and said, like, can I please just buy one and walk out? Like, I'm sorry. And they let me. But in this case, I could just pre-order it. It usually has kind of some alternative art. I'm sure the 2 leaders will be there in alternative art. So I think that's Ahsoka and Grievous. And it's a great little product, a great little taste of what it is before you commit to your weekly drafts or to a booster box. I'm really excited. I am like slowly becoming more and more of a prequel guy. But seeing a lot of these are strongly Clone Wars themed. More than prequels, I would say it's very much Clone Wars. And I think they know there's a really big fandom for that era and that show. But it's a lot of, it looks like we're getting some really cool mechanics to allow you to do clone armies and droid armies, that you can get tokens for those and kind of Some of the clone things you just can really pull many copies of those cards out, or all together, or different characters. So I think it's gonna add a lot of new mechanics. We got a kind of easy release last time with just really adding bounty hunting and smuggling, but I think we're in for like some pretty complicated stuff, and I'll be interested to see how it all works.
It's interesting, yes, because one thing for sure, and I've been listening to some of these Star Wars Unlimited podcasts, is the fact that yes, it's not going to take much to flood your mat with clones or battle droids, but at the same token, it looks like also these things are not long for the world. So I think it can go really fast, where all of a sudden you're able to add to, and then at the same time they're going to go away. And so I do think, and it's nice that later on down the road, I think one of the future releases I think is going to focus. It looks like it's focusing on space. But it's, I've been kind of listening that although there are some space units, this game is still very ground unit heavy. And the fact that, that you're going to have a lot of things out there. So, it's interesting that if you are out there and you're getting Spark of the Rebellion, I'd still say do it, because I think the main mechanics are not going to change, but it seems like a lot of these folks are looking, like when you get these releases, they're adding in and adding in. It'll be interesting, like in say a year or two, are these just going to be new characters, or are they going to kind of keep incrementally adding mechanics to it? It's almost like, when the first iPhone comes out, it's pretty basic. Now, if you came into it and this was your first iPhone, for the iPhone, 16, you'd be like, there's just a lot to it, and people are going to going like, where have you been? So what I liked about the pre-release box was that I didn't want to go in too heavy, because I do intend on, after my daughter's volleyball season, kind of getting back to those Thursday draft nights where I can kind of ingest some cards. It's a more controlled game. However, I'm not really getting too much into the constructed decks and that kind of play, and I do feel that at some point I found a very nice deck box that's going to allow me to expand and categorize this when I start deck building. But that's where I start needing to go, because otherwise, if I want to get into an event, and I'll be like, well, every time I've been playing, it's only been draft. And so there are multiple ways to play, and in which case I want to try to experience some of the other ways of playing. And that way, when I really get into deck building, it's going to make more sense. And especially with more releases, because all these are going to allow you to mix and match, and it'll keep these folks. And I swear, when I listen to some of these podcasters, and they're rattling off stuff left and right, and I'm going, wow, the rules really well. And I'm like, this is almost scary, but it's fun. And like I said, if you've been listening to this, or if after us harping on it in our Unlimited episode, by the way, which we had a blast with Ben Brophy and Carl Leclerc, that was a fun episode to do. You can go back and listen to that. But at any rate, I'm excited. The Twilight of the Republic comes out in November, and it'll be kind of fun. And now it seems like it's a little easier to get to product. And yes, you'll still have the showcases and all the cool variants of this. So even if you're just into it for the card art, it's still pretty cool. And the booster pack, it's not going to be crazy expensive. So if you want, hey, and by that time, it'll be close to the holidays. Put a box under your tree, or a little bit of ribbon for Christmas. Hello. Draft one of your siblings, draft one of your family members, make them play against their will. That's the best way to enjoy the holidays, is get out that Monopoly game and see anyway. I'll stop while I'm ahead. All right. So anyway, Greg, thank you for hanging around. And just real quick, you can let the folks know where they can find you.
I'm in my basement building decks of Star Wars Unlimited. Director Brophy and I, the other night, we met at his house, built our decks, and then took them to the local pub. And he made Mandalorians, and I made Wookiees. And this was our first, let's go through every card and build whatever we want. We had a lot of fun, and my Wookiees went 2-0. So I'm pretty pleased with my Wookiee efforts, and had a lot of fun with Chief from Revenge of the Sith. Yes.
Tarful?
Tarful, yes. So people can find me online sharing whenever I have a card or non-card related activity at Ion Cannon, EYEONCANON.
Thank you, Greg. We'll catch you on our full Breakfast Pack episodes, the Rebuild the Galaxy parts 3 and 4. Until that time, thank you very much, Greg.
Hello, everybody. This is Tom Gross of Teachers in the Dungeon. You're listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
Well, that was a lot of information, but I hope we kind of broke it down for you in a good way and you enjoyed this program, especially with, talking about Milton and ICCC and Galaxy and Star Wars Unlimited and Chrome, all that stuff. And that's why it kind of makes the Homestead keeping episodes as opposed to just a segment in the program. This makes a nice, well-rounded episode. So coming up soon, we are going to have part 2 of our Topps Disney Deal program with some great guests on. We'll be getting to Rebuilding the Galaxy in the Breakfast Pack on parts 3 and 4. We also still have more to come with Sal Berry from Puck Junk. A great conversation with him, as well as artist Stefan Leonardi. So a lot of great content is going to be in the feed, and I look forward to getting that to you as soon as I can. So thank you very much for listening. We'll talk soon. I'm going to let Card Squadron take it out. See you then.
The Rebel Base Card Podcast focuses on cards, collecting, and the Star Wars community, and appreciates you coming along for the ride.
If you have any feedback for this episode, you can reach out to the program in a number of ways. You can leave a comment on the Instagram post for this episode. You can also DM Greg on Instagram at Rebel Base Card.
Make sure to also follow the Rebel Base Card on Twitter and Facebook at Rebel Base Card. If you want, you can send an email to greg@rebelbasecard.com.
And you can find show notes for this and all episodes on the website rebelbasecard.com. In the Star Wars Card Trader app, and just about every other one, you can find Greg at CornFedTech.
The Rebel Base Card uses the hashtag Card Squadron as a way to alert friends about cool cards and recent drops in the galaxy far, far away. It's a great way to bring our community a little bit closer together and help one another finish our sets in time. We collect, communicate, and commiserate. Well, at least when we run out of credits or crystals to spend on our digital collections. Join the fun, even if all the other cool squadron names were already taken. And remember, we collect as one and would be honored if you join us.
And if you are a sketch card artist or Star Wars artist or collector, cosplayer, and want to talk about your work, your craft or passion, drop Greg a line. I'm sure he'd love to hear your story. You can also help the show by leaving a comment or review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you got this episode.
Otherwise, the mission is clear. Keep those cards out of the hands of the Empire, and the Rebel Base Card will return soon.
This podcast is not affiliated in any way with Topps, Disney, or Star Wars, nor is it endorsed by Disney or Lucasfilm, and is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All names and sounds and any other related items are properties of their respective trademarks and or copyright holders here in the U.S. and abroad. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com.
That's it.
One last story, and I can't remember if this was at Gen Con or not. This might have been at Gen Con. So this was when it was in Milwaukee, and I was playing in this World War II armor game, and to be fair, I was playing it like you probably shouldn't be playing it. So it's like, I would use anything at all at my disposal, and like if I'm gonna try to slow somebody down, I'm gonna ram a truck a deuce and a half into a tank.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not gonna do anything, but it's gonna slow down. Like no one would do that. But I remember I think I was playing Russia, and I had a tank that got disabled on a bridge, and I went to go like pulley it off, I tow it off, and the model had a towing package.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been an oil drum, but it looked like a towing package. That's my story, and I stick to it. And so I went there, and a guy was like, T-34s don't have towing packages. I went to Aberdeen to the Proving Grounds, and I saw it, and they didn't have one there. And finally, the DM kind of looked and said, well, if it's on the model, you can use it. And I was like, ha! And I was like, so I called it the Aberdeen ruling. It's like, okay, yeah, you might have seen it, but I'm like, if the model's got it, I'm going to use it.
Man, I should have invaded Aberdeen when I was in Maryland. They had it knowing that they might have a T-34 out there.